Excellent, thank you. Hello everyone and welcome UBT. So today we're going to do a demo on the various features of ACT. It's going to be a general walkthrough, and then we'll show some of the extensible features that you can have to expand the capabilities of ACT. But one of the things, especially to new users, I really kind of want everyone to put down their pencils and just reassure them that this isn't something that they're not going to be able to, visit and learn elsewhere. So the reason I put our website up is that you can very easily scroll down here and you'll see a whole slew of training resources here. The free ACT video training videos here, you click on, and this takes you to the fairly extensive library, and starting off with the getting started, where you can just kind of get a high level view of all the features of it. So I don't want you guys thinking that there's a whole lot of note taking or anything like that. This is something that you guys can very easily revisit. But one thing I want to show you here, let me just bring that screen back up. Okay, we'll go back to, okay, so we just published our newsletter, and there's a great video that we just released here. And if you scroll down, and Vic, what I'm going to ask you to do is send them the link to the newsletter. But right here, okay. And the reason I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, Vic asked me to cover about Zapier a little bit. Well, we just published an hour and 17-minute video on precisely that. So I'm not going to do a super big dive other than to obviously cover that there's many API functionalities that provide third-party integration. But here is a video that covers for an hour and 15 minutes by one of the best trainers in the ACT world, a guy named Brent Milner. Okay, so here's a resource that you guys can have afterwards. And then down here is mastering the ACT fundamentals. So really the kind of basic day-to-day stuff that you guys can review to understand how the program works, okay? And then over here is managing offline and remote users, and that's something that Vic will get a little bit more into because I think he's quoting you, the Windows client with ACT Premium Cloud and Desktop Sync, okay? But here's the program. Now, the first thing that you're gonna notice is, hey, this probably doesn't look like anyone else's versions of the program. One of the reasons that people have been so loyal to ACT for 35 years is that it really can be tailor-made to suit everyone's needs. So what you're seeing is a breakdown of all of the tombstone elements that are relevant to our business. So you can see all the different customized fields, things like that, breakdown that are intuitive to us. Here's little check boxes about, are they different support care plans? Are they using e-marketing? Are they hosted? All these different things, even a little checkbox for their newsletter. Now, one of the cool things about that, talking about extensibility and how ACT can be at the center of your ecosystem, is that we've got a form on our website that allows them to sign up for the newsletter. And when they click on it, it automatically will either find their contact or create a new contact and check this box off. And if this box is checked, they're automatically included in our newsletter, which actually just went out this morning, okay? So just to kind of show you how this can be customized, it can also really display useful information that you have right in front of you when you're talking to the customer. Okay, now if we're just kind of going through the different fields, you'll see here's all our phone fields, and we've got a little icon at the end that triggers a call. Okay, so for instance, if I clicked on this little dialog box would come up, and it would then try to make this call, which obviously I'm going to cancel. Okay, now not only does it trigger the call, but it triggers the dialog box for you to record the outcome of the call. So it is timing the call, and then when you're done, you record the history, the call completed. You can make your notes and click on save, and that will go to the history. So not only do you have the click to dial functionality with our call aid, okay, but it also integrates with the history, providing a more thorough and efficient audit trail. Okay, so I think you can well imagine that if you asked everyone to record every calls, it probably wouldn't happen. But if you pop up a dialog box where all they have to do is say okay, just to kind of get it out of the way, then it's going to happen more reliably, and you've got more reliable data as a result of it. Okay. Now, email fields are email fields. All of these different things. You've got different types of fields. Here's our drop downs. Here's multi-selects. I'm not going to get super much into any of the individual fields because this will be a 3-hour demo, but this is generally what you can customize. And every one of these fields you can tailor fit based on drop downs, based on field type to suit your needs. Okay. Now, you'll notice that there's a bunch of grayed out fields. These grayed out fields are system fields, and they're tracking things for you. So in this case, you can see my last meeting. This automatically, when I cleared an activity, this is my user record, it flagged in the system that my last meeting was today. But if I'm looking at a contact, it's going to show the last meeting that I had with them. And it will be, maybe it was a week ago, maybe it was 6 months ago. Well, you can actually use ACT to create lookups based on how recent of a meeting you had, okay? And create follow-ups based on that. Let's say you want to do an inactivity lookup. Well, these are some of the fields: the last reach, the last attempts, the last email. All of these are being tracked by the system, allowing you to have a more effective audit trail, and also to trigger off some of that system recorded information on each and every single contact. So it's not like it's a blank piece of paper where you've got to record every single interaction. The system itself is doing a lot for you based on you just scheduling and clearing meetings. Okay. Now, as I said, we've got the tombstone up here that's fully customized. We also have dynamic toolbars across the top. Why are they dynamic? Well, depending on which section you're in, new will mean a new contact, a new group, a new company. Back button, just in case you need to just go back one step. You schedule a call, schedule a meeting, to-dos. Here's notes, histories. What's the difference? Notes, what we generally coach people is, if you've got something that you want to record about the person, then you will take a note, okay? Like, for instance, this customer likes coffee, okay? However, if you click on a history, it's meant to record an interaction with them. I had a coffee with this person at such and such a time. This was the outcome. I'm scheduling this follow-up. The reason that I'm making that distinction is most people won't do any reporting on notes, because it's, this relatively unclassifiable data on people. Like, pretty much the only reports you can do is how many notes. But when you record a history, you can do detailed reporting on how much, how many calls you had with a person, how long were those calls, how many meetings, things like that. And they've made it even simpler by creating this little history list here, where you can click on it and actually filter it like a spreadsheet to get, so you don't have to be like a reporting wizard. Okay, so it's tracking everything and it's providing you easy accountability. A lot of people in your business are subject to what's called KYC audits, where they've got to establish, how much you've interacted with a customer for you to have a responsible knowledge of their risk assessments and things like that. That's why we have all these audit systems in place, so that if any of your users are subjected to a KYC audit, you can generate a very, very quick report to say, the reason I know how to make this trade on this person's behalf is because I spoke to them 67 times this year. Okay, and they can generate that report really, really quickly. Okay. So you've got all of these going across. Click on email, that will automatically trigger an email. Okay, but so is clicking on this. Now, the nice thing as well, anything that you do with ACT, whether ACT is closed, okay, or not, any email that you send to a contact in ACT will get recorded under this history. Okay. Why? Same reason as I said before. Again, having that audit trail, so you can send something in Outlook that with ACT closed, and it will still record it to the history, so that when, again, you've got to provide a report or an accounting of how well you know a client based on your interactions with them, that will be part of that audit. Okay, so again, it's aggregating every single interaction that you've got with the client, both digital and analog, and compiling them in history so you can account for your knowledge of them. Okay. Then we've got email help. Okay, so now This is the top part. These are all the functions. Pretty much every single, this is what I tell people when I'm teaching them. Every single feature of the program is all within these drop downs. Okay, some are duplicated here. One of the things about ACT is that you can actually perform the same task in many different ways. If I go to the opportunity section and create a new opportunity, I can also right click and have access to new opportunities, all kinds of things. I can click on the history up here. I can also hit Control H, do all kinds of different things. That's why I tell people every single function is available from here. So if you're wondering, does it support merge mailing? Of course it does. Here it is. Do I have reports? Here they are. Okay, what are all the tools available? I can go through here. So all of those things, and that really kind of demystifies it. You don't have to worry about, what's under the hood that I can't see, because all of these features here. You can see how extensive that list is, so I'm not really going to do a deep dive on each and every single one, because I want you guys to be awake by the end of this. So now that we've got the top part, you can see all the different features and functions available here. One of the other things that they've done to organize the desktop view is broken the bottom half down into tabs. Okay, so I can click on here and I can see all the notes I've got under this contact. It's obviously me. I don't write a lot of notes about myself. I can see all the history. Okay, I can see all the activities I've got scheduled. Okay, now if this was a contact other than myself, I would see all the contacts or all the activities I've got scheduled with that contact at a view, at a glance. Now I can see all the opportunities. I can see all the groups and companies. Now groups there's two types of groups. Groups which are populated manually, like you would put socks in a sock drawer. So you'd say, add this person to this group. And then there are dynamic groups where you set up rules and you say, okay, everyone that is a customer that has an email address that I have, met with in the last year, okay, put into this group, and I'm going to call them, my busy clients. Okay, that will be dynamic population of groups. When I click on this one, this shows me all the groups that this person is part of, like on that sock drawer level where I've manually added them in. And then if I click on here, I can say show dynamic, and it will show me all the groups that they are eligible to be in based on whatever rules apply. Now, the reason that you click on this, just system resources, because when you click on this, it's going to hit the database with about 100 different queries based on however many groups you want. So you don't want people having this tab open, scrolling from contact to contact and spiking up the system resources. So they make this available at one extra click. Now, you guys are also heavy documentation industry. So this is where you can record all of, attach different documents, different maybe forms that they filled out, things like that, and attach them for easy access. So you can just select them, print them off, or email them to the customer if they need to get that. So this is like a nice little library tab that you've got. Now, the other thing is when we're dealing with all of these people, there may be different parties that that you work with in connection with them, whether it's a receptionist, whether it is an accountant, whether or not it is a bookkeeper or something like that. So ACT has created what's called a secondary contact. Now, these people are basically enablers. They're not people that you would generally record histories with, but maybe when you're calling in, you want to have, the bookkeeper's name, you want to have the receptionist name. So this is where you would record all of that. And then if at any moment your interaction with that secondary contact gets to the point where they need to be a full-fledged contact, you click on it and click on promote, and they go into the regular contact directory. Okay. Now, contact access. Well, this is probably something that, given your industry and the security associated with it, you're going to be keen on. So there's 3 levels of access automatically: public, self-evident. Private basically means if you make a particular contact, and by the way, the reason that this is all grayed out is because I'm a user, so I can't have my access or people's access to me as a user limited. But if I make that private, then only my login user will see it. Okay. Now, limited access doesn't determine, you can look but not touch. It is limited. The access is limited to whatever users you assign. Okay. So when you click on limited, you can select the users or select the teams that will have access to that contact. So it's fairly flexible in terms of how you can control access to that. Now, I know that was kind of an important issue that Vic told me to cover. So is there any questions on that you guys have? I think someone turned off the mic.
No, I think we're good in the room. You're good.
Okay, good. So a lot of the other tabs are custom. So you create all these different tabs and you can customize them for whatever needs you have. Every single industry is different. Obviously, we have our own unique needs, so we're storing ACT information, things like that. Web info will actually allow you to surface information right inside of the browser information right inside of here. So why is that useful? Well, let's say you've got a rep that wants to drive to a customer's house, okay? It's fine that they set the appointment at 2 o'clock. What you don't know is how long it's going to take. So if you're looking at the contact, you can actually click on Google driving directions and know precisely how long it's going to take, and they will map it out and tell you. So you now know, yes, the meeting's at 2 o'clock, but also when I have to leave to get to that meeting for 2 o'clock. So you can also click on LinkedIn, you can click on Facebook, all these different tabs. Obviously, each program is going to have its own logins and different securities, as you're seeing here, but this allows you to have like that web info tab where you can have quick one-click access to all the different pages relating to that contact. Relationships was something that was introduced a little over 10 years ago, and it's kind of cool in that when you are looking at a contact and you see ID status, this is determining or defining your relationship with that contact. Like, are they a client? Are they a friend? Are they a vendor? So everything is about the user to the contact. However, ACT also developed a contact-to-contact way of defining relationships. Like, for instance, in this contact, I can say, okay, here's Ken Quigley, here's another contact, and the relationship with them is family. Now, this is a bunch of family members here. However, what if I had a contact that I was looking at and I wanted to see, he was an accountant, and I wanted to see every single person he was representing in my database, or a lawyer that he was working with, or a real estate agent. I was working with one company that said, I can look up a real estate agent and see every single contact in the database, and there was like, that was catnip to them. They absolutely love that. So the relationship feature allows you to define contact-to-contact relationships, which depending on the business you're in can be really useful. I would think for you guys, having real estate agents, accountants, things like that, people that are working in related fields, that you can actually see everyone that they're related to. Okay. The rest of the stuff is largely largely custom. There are things about marketing automation. I'm not going to cover a whole lot of marketing automation unless you guys would like me to. It's just that I find that the marketing automation is not something that gets a lot of traction with your industry, because that tends to be done at the brokerage level. Is that a fair comment?
What did you say?
Can you repeat your question?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Can you repeat your question?
Okay, so marketing automation is a very, very powerful part of ACT, but generally your industry, they handle the marketing at the not at the advisor level, but at the brokerage level. So I wasn't planning on doing a drill down on that too much, because that's like quite a bit to cover. So I just wanted to ask you if that was a fair assumption, and if not, I can spend 5 minutes on it.
I mean, we're not brokerage.
Yeah, we can pass it.
No, we could use that.
We could use it.
Yeah.
No, then great. Like, guys, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't like it. We use it when we live on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, let's go into it. Now, a lot of people, up to about 5 years ago, most of the e-marketing functions were exactly that. It was e-marketing. But now we switched it over to marketing automation, which is kind of like e-marketing on steroids, that is far more intelligent and allows you to not just set up drip campaigns, but set up intelligent campaigns that will react based on how people are engaged. Okay, so this was our newsletter this morning. This is about as simple as it gets. So the newsletter went out. Let me just go back here. The newsletter was made. It went out. It was scheduled to go out at 10 a.m. I actually finished it yesterday. Scheduled went out. Nothing else. So this is largely e-marketing. Okay. Now what you're seeing is the campaign designer, not the template designer. If you want to actually see the newsletter, then we can click here. And now we get into the template designer that allows us to, just wait for it to load. Okay, so I can design, here's all my design tools over here, you know, images and buttons and dividers and videos and things like that. What that newsletter that I started off with showing you, this is where it was built. Okay, and this is what it looks like in design. So pretty clear how it, you know how you're building it. It's exactly, you know, it's WYSIWYG, exactly what you see here is what you get. It also is totally mobile responsive, so you can click here and see how it looks on a mobile phone, okay, or on the mobile platform. You can hide different things, but this is how powerful it is. Now, this is just the designer. So if I'm sending out a newsletter, this is great, one shot. I can build this pretty quickly, send it and forget it. Okay. Now I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to see. Okay, let's see the email statistics because it's already gone out. Okay, so I can see that I sent it out to 3,600 people. It was delivered to 3,579. That's a 99.11% delivery rate. Okay, 5 unsubscribed, very, very low bounce rate. Okay, and I've got 2,242 opens. Okay, 100 unique clicks. I've got all the stats that I want. I've got bounces here. So if I want to go down and say, okay, what's going on with those bounces? I can do here, I can do retrieve, and I can get those lists and find out why they bounce. But generally, this is a pretty positive report. Newsletter went out. Here's the delivery rate, everything. I'm pretty satisfied with these stats, but it was also a pretty easy campaign. You know, it was one email. If I go here, and let's go up to the return. Okay, if I go to, let's go to, oh, that was easy too. What we can do is we can build a newsletter, a campaign that says, okay, if you click on this, send them this other email. If they click on that, do this. And I was just trying to find one that showed a bit more of a decision tree without wasting too much of your time. Okay, think here is letter to customer. Okay, so let's go here. This is a drip campaign. So what I did was at the beginning of August, we were planning a fairly big campaign that was running right through till, in this case, yesterday. So this was a standard drip campaign, no interactions or anything, but I made this at the beginning of August, and it scheduled the drips all the way through for the next 45 days, and it has worked fantastic. Okay, I've got my campaign properties. I can check the dashboards to see the click-through rates, but I also know our conversions have been pretty terrific as well. Okay. Any questions on that?
And for that template, sorry, would we have the ability to upload like images from our internal marketing department, or would they have to go in there and build it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my marketing department, they build everything in Photoshop. And then we, like if I go here, let's go to drip test. So go into edit. Okay, so now let's say I want to drop in an image. I click browse. I can access my library of images that I've previously used, or I can click on upload and I can pull them from the hard drive. I can also, if I go to a website, right click on an image and say copy link, okay, copy image link, I can paste that into here and it will literally grab it from the internet and pull it and download it or upload it directly to my library. Okay, so you can access it from other websites, you can access it from your hard drive, access from network resources, whichever, and then it will have a link that is assigned within the, I think it's the Amazon storage, that it's consistently available to you. Okay, so you can go into a template, check what the storage link is, paste it into a browser, and then download it to another computer if you wanted. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
I think I probably over answered your question, so apologies for that. Okay, so that's, given the fact that we're about halfway through, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in marketing. But again, I showed you guys where that library of videos was. In the top right-hand corner of that library, there is several choices, one of which is Act Marketing Automation, and they have like 50 videos just on this, okay, broken down by individual subjects, and they're extremely useful, okay? So let's get into the groups. So the groups allows you to really organize and segment your customers, okay? Now, one of the things that Vic told me is that you guys like to kind of stratify your customers, whether they're gold, silver, or bronze, or whether they're A, B, C, or D, or whether or not they're 1, 2, 3, or 4, anything along those lines, however you grade them. What you can do is actually set up groups that allow you to dynamically populate them so that you're only working with the contacts and updating their contact fields. So let's say that you had a grade here that said, a customer tier, okay? And you can have like 1 through 5 or A through D. What you can do is when you right click and look it up, you can say greater than or equal to. ACT understands that the alphabet also works with tiers. A is better than B, B is better than C, so on and so forth. So whether you use alphabetical or numerical, ACT still allows you to stratify your customers and rank them. Now, why am I going through all of this? Obviously, you guys are going to have different tiers of service that you provide based on the tier of customers, but you can also, like, let's say you had a newsletter that went out to all of your grade A customers, okay? Well, you can have a group that the newsletter will feed from, okay, that is populated only with your grade A and grade B, okay? Whereas your lower tier customers, based on whatever criterions make that up, can get a more generic kind of lead generation newsletter, not so much a more detailed, higher profile newsletter, okay? And I'm kind of pulling examples out of the air here, but you can kind of see what I mean in terms of segmenting. ACT allows you to break them down by tier and then organize them in groups by that same segmentation, okay? So that's really good. So the groups, in terms of the marketing automation, the groups is absolutely key, okay? Because all of it, you don't send AMA to a particular contact. Most often campaigns are targeted by groups. So having the ability to dynamically populate groups is really useful, okay? Now, I'm not saying that static population of a group where you just drop them in like socks in a sock drawer isn't useful. It's just limited. So for instance, if I was hosting an event, a webinar, and I had 30 people show up, okay? Those people that showed up I'm going to statically populate them in the group. That's never going to change. There isn't going to be some circumstance that happens after that event that will make them eligible to have attended, because that's a snapshot. So that's a perfect example where static population would be. But if I've got a group that will harvest the information for me and say, show me my top tier customers, based on whatever criterions, that tends to be a bit more useful and a bit more time saving. Okay. Now, the companies. This is going to seem like a bit of a square peg to you guys, because you guys tend to be B2C. You tend to work directly with not companies in most cases, but households. Okay, so what a lot of our financial advisors and what a lot of our people in the wealth management sector do is that they actually treat companies like households. So they can actually add a bunch of people into a household, still treat them individually, but aggregate them for family considerations as needed. Okay, so don't be too turned off by the term companies if it doesn't feel like a natural fit. Your industry tends to use them as households. Okay, now the nice thing about that is it's not just grouping them together like groups did. Okay, but it's also aggregating all the notes, all the histories, all the appointments, all the opportunities, documents, everything. Actually, not documents. Documents are stored at the company level. Okay, but all of the information here is aggregating from all the contacts. Okay, so that's kind of useful if you're working with, say, a husband and a wife individually. They've got their own respective portfolios, and now you're dealing with the next generation with their kids. You can aggregate them all under one particular household, get that quick top level view of them, okay, but still treat them and be able to drill down individually to review them, as a single customer. So you can see them as a whole, you can see them as individually. Okay. The calendar is the calendar. Okay, there's nothing, you've got the calendar here that allows you to have full visibility. What I've done is I tend to view, I set my work hours from 8 to 5, so that's why this is in yellow. I increment my time in 15 minutes. You can increment them in whatever number of minutes you want. Most people, the default is 30 minutes, so you'll see, each hour divided into 2. But whatever makes sense to you, okay, and this is where you've got your high level view across the week, okay, so you can schedule accordingly. But you also have got, today, daily, work week. Weekly is obviously incorporating the weekend, okay, and then you've got the monthly as well, okay. So this is my default view, so this is what I tend to load in. I've also got my mini calendar here. I can click on any one of these segments to automatically trigger the creation of an activity, okay? All of these things you can drag around. So this particular activity, I just completed it beforehand. So I'm gonna clear it, okay? So what this allows me to do is record the outcome, record the duration if it went longer. Here's all my notes for the ephemera I can put in. And then I can also immediately schedule a follow-up. I can attach documents, whichever, but in this case, I'm just gonna clear it, okay? And now this meeting will be grayed out, okay? Showing that it's cleared, and that has been recorded in the history. So if I go into this particular contact, this will be one more history. And if I do a report, this will come up as one of my interactions with him for both time, date, duration, and type. So in this case, this was a meeting, okay? And you can see here that I've got this meeting as well, okay? So the calendar, like, let's say these are all recurring activities. So you see these 3 different ones. All of these I've set for weekly recurring. So if I go here, they will automatically populate, because a lot of my meetings, especially staff meetings, things like that, they recur at the same time each and every single week. So I can set whatever recurrences I want. In terms of meeting, there's nothing that's going to knock your socks off on the basic dialogues here, but it's nice that you've got the different activity types. You've got the from and to date. A lot of the times, if you just put in the date, the time, the duration, these last 2 fields will automatically populate. One of the things that is particularly popular with me is you've got the ability to put in timeless. So if you, and this is actually not available in a lot of CRMs, where let's say I'm going to call back Vic tomorrow, doesn't really matter which, I just need to put it on my list and I'll fit it in when I can. Then you can set timeless and that will show up over here, but it won't clutter my calendar, okay? If I schedule an appointment and then I click on here, that will send out an Outlook invitation the moment that I click on OK. Here's where I put the regarding. Here's where I can put in resources where I can actually organize things like boardrooms, things like that, and that will allow me to book a commonly used resource, whether it's a company van, as you can see, company cars, boardrooms, whatever, okay? Maybe back in the day, we used to book projectors, okay? Set the priority, set the alarm, here's the location. Most of the times these days, it's typically a digital link. And then here's the details. You can attach documents. Here's the recurrence, very, very flexible. Set them once, daily, weekly. You can set it every other week. You can set it, the first Monday, whichever. And then this availability will immediately display everyone's availability that is tagged in this meeting. Okay, so if I need to move it, I can say auto select and it will pick the next available time that everyone is free. Okay, so some of these tools are pretty powerful. I'm not going to pretend the calendar tools are necessarily unique to ACT, but some of them, like the timeless and the resources feature, are pretty handy. And I know some of our customers have missed them when they left and have come back on account of that. Okay, so here's the calendar. Task list is basically another way to view the calendar list, but view them in a way that you can filter. So you can show me my date parameters, my types, priorities, select, which users, things like that. So this allows me a little bit more filterable list. I can export the list in this case. In fact, on that subject, I can actually go back any kind of list view in here because I showed you guys only let me just do a quick look up here, all contacts. Okay, I gotta be careful here because I've got a lot of contacts, okay? Is I can now export here the list of all contacts, okay? I can geoplot them, I can duplicate contacts, I can print the list, I can do whichever, and then if I select one, I click on detail view, it will toggle back to that tombstone view I showed you before, okay? But that's one of the easiest ways of exporting the data. Now, maybe there are columns here that you want in your export that aren't included. So what you can do is click on here and you can select which columns you want to be visible on this list view that may not be as part of your default. You can add them, and then when you export to Excel, they'll be included in that export. Okay. So back to, I talked to you briefly about the history list. This allows us to very quickly, I can say, show me my current week. I can select users, and this will give me a very, very quick breakdown of whatever I've filtered. Now, in this case, I've said, show me only calls, chats, emails, meetings for one particular user. Okay, so if you're an administrator and you're trying to determine the level of activity of a particular contact, this is an easy way to do it, or particular user, I should say. Okay, now obviously that's visible, but you can also do reporting that will provide that same level of detail. Here, let me just bring up iReport. Okay, we have some add-ons that do that for us as well. So for instance, I've got a dashboard that I keep open all day long. That shows me, here's all my users, showing me all the call attempts, call completeds, shows me my aggregate stats and my totals along the bottom. Here's where it can look up details and say, okay, here's my service hours and here's my service tickets. Okay, I can see, who's doing really well, who's being busy, who's not. I can check upcoming renewals. I could see a breakdown of our hosting servers. I can see a breakdown of all the accounts that are renewing in the next couple of months. And then here's our sales pipeline. So we've got everything that's in the queue, and then our monthly sales. Monthly sales, these are presented in, obviously bar charts, but if I want to see them more on a KPI level, I can get them here as well. And this is aggregating and refreshing, in my case, every 5 minutes. So I'm going to have a fairly active dashboard that's showing me all the KPIs that I want, and it's going to be off on a separate screen. Okay, so that I've even had customers display sales results up on a TV on a wall where the whole sales team can see. Okay, but here's where you can see different charts, and all of these things are customizable, or you can create your own from scratch. The other thing is you can build some of these things into the welcome screen, okay, and you can make this your landing page, and this will show you a very personalized landing page that changes each and every single time. My internet's pretty slow in this office, and it's obviously pulling this information from our database on the cloud, but I can come in and I can say, okay, here's my task list for the day, here's my open opportunities, here's my pipeline, so on and so forth. And all of this can be customized so that when I log in, I'm getting, a personal, priority list of everything that I've got going, okay? The other thing that I think that you guys will be interested to see is that a lot of what you manage, whether it's insurance policies or loans or things like that, it's basically transactional data, okay? And in many respects, we deal in the same thing, okay? We may not be dealing in dollar amounts, but we're dealing with people having multiple licenses, people having multiple subscriptions, things like that. So let's, for instance, say, okay, here's a record of every single software purchase that I recorded here under the company that we own, okay? Now, at first glance, this is looks like a spreadsheet, okay? But this is in list view. If I was to go here and let's just go to this one, Microsoft, okay? I can double click on this and it will open up, and there it is. And it will show me the detailed record of everything relating to that particular subscription. So transfer that from, a software subscription to a loan or an insurance policy or anything like that. So you can record all of these different things. Now, yes, there are details relating to this that may be unique, but one of the things that is common between a software subscription and an investment product or an insurance policy are things like start date and renewal dates. So here is a renewal date, okay? Now, on an individual basis, that may not be particularly compelling because who wants to spend time going through each and every one of these things? But let's say that I want to pivot from this particular contact view and I want to go to a global view. And I want to say, okay, let me take a look at all my Axe subscriptions over here, okay, which is now going to compile all of the information I have under all the contacts, okay? Always gets a little slow here. Okay, so now I'm going to clear. So this is now a list of everything, past and present. So now let's take a look at these columns. I can say, I want to see only my active accounts, okay? I can see the values for each one, and I can do a total, and I can do the average amounts. I can calculate how many accounts I've got, okay? And then I could start doing a filtering. Well, we talked about the renewal date. So, show me the amount that's renewing, let's say next year, automatically filters it. Show me this year, okay? Let's say I want to actually determine precisely, let's go for December. Now I could see precisely the revenue that I've got for December in renewals, the number of seats that I've got in renewals, okay? And it really allows me to view my data as like a book of business level, okay, as opposed to individual contacts. And that's the value of putting all of your data in ACT, is that you can access this instantly, okay? And you can build in reports over here, like I showed you over here, where this particular widget is capturing all of that information, okay? Where I could say, show me all of my ACT subscribers that are renewing in the next 2 months and break them down into different subscription types, okay? So let's go back here. I'm not going to get into opportunities too much, because opportunities, lots of pipeline data, generally doesn't resonate really well with the with your industry. But what does is, and we talked a little bit about the about how ACT is in the center of an ecosystem. So what I have is we you know, ACT is, we talked about Zapier, but ACT also has its own web API, okay, that allows you to have the internet connect to different data points and different endpoints. And there's really useful practical applications with this. So for instance, let me go here, and I'm going to go to, let's say, okay, so if we go over here, link to calendar. Well, all of you guys on the call have probably heard about about Calendly, okay? Well, link to calendar is basically Calendly for ACT, okay? And what it allows you to do is it allows you to post a link so that people can see your availability. They can book it online, and it will immediately write to your ACT. Okay, so that if you put that in your email signature, or you're prospecting and say, you know, please click my calendar link for the next available time, it really allows you to modernize how you engage with your customers, okay? And what we find is it really reduces, if not eliminate, a lot of the email ping pong that goes back and forth when people trying to schedule, and it really shortens up the sales cycle, okay?
And the other thing is, you can also set your own criteria when you're available, when you're not available, holidays, holidays, that type of thing as well.
You could also say, like, I don't want anyone booking an appointment with me for the next 3 days, so that, you know, people have to book after that, because, you know, if you don't put any kind of calibration, you know, people can book something with you in the next hour, and you may not see it until it's too late, okay? And suddenly you're missing a meeting. Link to forms is really useful, because you can actually, let's go here. Okay, is you can have forms on your website like here, or get an online quote, okay, or even HR, okay? You can fill out these forms, and all of them go directly into your database. If it's a recognized contact, then it will add it to an existing contact, and it can group them all, everything. See this little pop-up? People click on this, it makes that change that I showed you earlier. So if I click on here, they fill this out, it updates existing contacts with that little newsletter checkbox, or it adds them to the database. So this is where web forms, whether it is used in social media or in people's personal websites, really can become a really good lead generation and data harvesting tool, okay? One of the other big things that people are keen on in your industry is organizing lunch and learns, organizing webinars, things like that, where they say, you know, I'm hosting this event on how to retire early. You know, here's my sign up page. Okay, so you distribute it out through your social media, your e-marketing, whichever. Maybe it's passed around. Maybe there's people that, you know, are in your database that want to attend. Maybe they pass it on to other people that aren't in your database. The bottom line is, every single time that they complete a form, okay, they get added to the database. Okay, and here's, we've got little videos and things like that. Here's a quick form. I regret the subject choice here. We've got Vic and his smiling face, but they complete this, and it's very customizable in terms of layout. This is a very simple one. Okay, they get an automatic answer page with a click here to download the ICS file to add to their calendar. They can get, and then you can set up rules for automatic follow-ups or automatic reminders that go out. And what's really nice about this is that it allows you to take like a $20 meeting package, whether it's Zoom or GoToMeeting like the one we're using, okay, today. It's great. Everyone on this meeting was invited one-to-one, right? We knew who was going to attend because each of you guys were given the invite. However, when you're hosting an event that's a lead generation or an education event, you want to post it up so you can get a whole lot of people. Well, that requires a webinar service, which typically costs 5 to 10 times as much as the meeting service. If any of you guys have ever looked into webinar services, you'll find that they range from 120 to 200 or more, okay? And they still don't integrate with ACT. Link to Events allows you to publish a sign-up page, harvest all that data, put it into ACT, organize it in groups, schedule the follow-ups, do all of that. It even allows you, when you create a sign-up page, to put your calendar link at the bottom. Say if you have any additional questions, click here to book a one-on-one with me. So you've got all of these different touch points that are lead generators, okay? All of which are feeding into ACT, either by calendar, by groups, okay, by contacts, whichever, okay? And that's what we talked about in terms of extending the capabilities of ACT, where it becomes the center of an ecosystem, okay? And those are the main ones I wanted to show you in terms of Linktivity, because those are the ones, I mean, there's other ones, but we've got Link to Calendar. I don't expect quoting to be of interest, but Forms is really powerful. Link to Events. The only other one that I'm really going to mention to you guys is if you guys did express interest in marketing. Well, if you guys have a distribution list and you haven't scrubbed it yet, part of the reason a lot of people don't scrub it, it's not I just can't get around to it or I'm lazy or anything. It just takes a ton of time. If you've got a distribution list of several thousand people, going in and verifying each one of those individual emails, getting, opt-ins, all of that, it's really time consuming to the point where it's time prohibitive. Link to List allows you to do run a function which will connect with Bright Verify, an online database of valid emails, and then check the emails that you've got in your database, all based on a particular group, okay, scan a group, and it will update each one of the contacts with a status report on how good the email is. Is it valid? Is it invalid? Is it one of those accept alls, or is it unknown? Okay, and then what you can do is once it updates it, and by the way, it updates it about 3 per second, so this doesn't take that long. We actually don't do any new email campaign without scrubbing the marketing list, and that takes virtually nothing, okay? So this is a way where you can really accelerate the go-to-market planning where a lot of people are held back because they're worried about, the hygiene of their list. This allows you in a fairly quick process to get your list market ready. And so you don't have to worry about, a high bounce rate or being blacklisted or anything like that. Okay, so I've got 4 minutes left. I've been talking for about 55 minutes here, and I want to give you guys a quick chance for some Q&A. So,
okay, Ken, there's two things yet. We talked about the notifier and activity series.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so so much for our Q&A. So
sorry about that.
That's all right. So we do have a product called the Notifier. Now it's an admin tool, so it doesn't have any leg to show you. But one of the things that is really cool in that, and let me just kind of show you what it looks like from a. Let me go here. So I'm gonna pull up. Where is the subscriptions? Okay. I can't find it. Okay, subscription notice. Okay, so here's our emails that go out every single day. Okay, so what this does is the notifier will check our custom tables, the ACT subscription table that I showed you guys, and it will determine, okay, who is up for renewal in the next 60 days, okay? What it will do is it will find that person, and then it will send out an email and say, hey, in this case, it's halfway through. So this is one of those waiters checking if everything's okay with your meal. So, hey, it's the halfway point of your current Axe subscription term, and I wanted to check in, do a quick pulse check, see how everything is going. This is sent out automatically. So today there was 1 email. Yesterday there was 3, okay? Now, here's a perfect example of why you sustain that automated engagement. So here is a customer that replied to it and said, hey, thanks, I want to pay my bill, okay? And I was able to respond to them saying, your bill isn't, your renewal is in December, we don't have that information yet, but when it comes, you can get, you could pay your bill at such and such a link, okay? Now this customer was a little frustrated. I'm not sure who she emailed, but she actually had a touch point, and it was like, hey, I'm going to reply to this guy, and we were able, as you can see, keep the customer happy, okay? All because of automated emails. Now, this is one particular email. We've got renewal notifications. So let's say that you had an insurance policy, okay, that was renewing on October 31st. You can set up 5 separate emails that will go out counting down, like, 7 weeks out, 6 weeks out, reminding them about what they have to do in preparation for that, okay? And then the moment that you update the custom table to say put it to the next year, those renewal notifications will stop, okay? So we actually have, believe it or not, I've actually done the math on this, we have 150,000 automated emails that go out every single year. That, from a human resources standpoint, would be completely impossible to manage, okay? So that's something that we completely rely on. Any of the other vendors that we set up like that, they say, literally their business would grind to a halt if they stopped using the notifier, because the notifier allows them, think about it, whether it's whatever industry, you can talk about insurance policy renewals, what about warranty renewals, what about support contracts, anything along those lines that have a from and to date, you can manage the touch points to optimize your renewal rate with those customers, okay? And then the last point, to make sure I get everything in under the wire, is if I click on schedule, I've got a feature called activity series, okay? And I could show you the activity series. Let's go to edit an existing one, okay? And what I've got here is I've got a whole slew of activities. I'm gonna select, let me go back here. Schedule, manage, activity series templates. Let me edit, I think edit here. Okay, so I click on departing employees. Okay, so departing employees, as you guys well know, when someone leaves, a bunch of steps have to be made, okay? So disable email account, do all of this. So all of these steps are, the moment that someone leaves, we trigger this, and all of these steps are then put into my calendar with them to get completed. Okay, so we can make sure that that checklist works every single time. Now that's on the outbound. On the inbound, a new employee, you can well imagine in a busy business, it's going to be very difficult to remember all the HR steps, the things that they have to get access to, all of those things. We can automate here to make sure a checklist is generated, and it shows when each one of these steps have got to be done. 0 days, which means the day they're hired, 5 days, 7 days, all based on that initial anchor date, which is the day that they hired or when this was triggered, okay? Now you guys might look at it from a new customer provisioning standpoint, where you're welcoming a new customer, you want to make sure that they get the initial welcome package on the first day, send out a welcome email several days after that, have someone reach out to them to make sure they're happy with whatever. I'm not going to sound like I know how you guys do your business, but whatever scheduled regular touch points you have with the customer, okay, you can automate with this to make sure that someone is responsible for making sure each and every one of those steps are completed, because they'll be in their calendar. Okay, Vic, am I forgetting anything else?
Classifications, remember
Well, we did cover the classifications.
but-
Remember when we talked about the stratification? So
Okay, yeah, okay.
whether
that's
it was, 1 through 5 or A through D. The reason that I mentioned that stratification is important because ACT can actually recognize that A is higher than B in a lookup, whereas most people kind of intuitively think that in terms of numeric, like, 1 is higher than 2, that kind of thing. ACT can actually understand that you would grade a customer A, which is higher than B. So however you stratify it, just don't do something that isn't intuitive, like I'm going to rank them by my favorite vegetables or something. ACT isn't going to figure that out. Okay, but generally it's very, very easy to segment your database based on whatever tier you assign them. And then also, as I said before, you can even set up your marketing so that your some marketing goes to your higher tier customers and some marketing goes to different marketing goes to your lower tier customers.
Is there anything else, Ryan? I think that was about everything on my list.
Oh, there was one other little thing. You asked me to cover like alerts of, let's say you're looking at a contact and you need to be alerted to something, whether it is a low fund balance or whether it's an expiring account or something like that. You can actually set up, we've got a couple of ones that we built here. So in this case, to avoid hunting accidents on the sales team, we created this little feature called Open Quote, okay? And this took like less than an hour to build. And what it will do is if one of the salespeople is looking at a contact and it says, yes, stop, don't make this guy another quote, someone else has an open quote on them. Now, if you go to, let's say a financial example, see this thing up here where it's green, this indicates, hey, I can do more business with this person, but if this particular customer owed money, okay, this would say, hey, red, display in red, talk to this person about their outstanding balance, so you don't extend or increase your credit risk with them. Okay, so there isn't anything that's canned in the box. These are things that we customized ourselves based on our unique needs. But depending on what you work out with Vic of what might be your customized needs, then you can really get us to develop whatever needs you have. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Ryan, anything else you want to see or us to address?
No, nobody in here in the room has any questions. We're good, unless anybody else on the call.
Excellent. When should I, you're going on holidays next week, right, Ryan?
Nope. Not next week, a couple weeks away.
Okay. Now, do you want me to circle back with you next week, or how do you want to do this?
We'll debrief here and get any other questions gathered and send out the recording to a few others that were not able to make it today, and then we'll go from there. I'll be in touch with you.
Excellent.
Yeah, and one other thing I should wrap up, I'm sure that Vic has told you about this, is that you guys are on Azure, so I can tell you that this is our Azure instance, so we're on Azure as well, so you can see a lot of the same functionality there. As well, for those that don't necessarily have Azure access, a lot of what I showed you today is also available through a browser, okay, through the ACT Premium Cloud. So you really can control how people consume the data, whether it's local to their computer, whether it's on Azure, or whether it's through a browser. So that gives you, many additional configurable setup options that will allow you to control the security of how people access the data.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks everyone for attending, and hopefully we'll have some discussions and we'll go from here. Thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you, Ken, for the great presentation.
Excellent. Take care.